I was kind of like in shock a little bit.
Yeah.
And this guy's going to be like, what church does he go to? And, and sometimes faith music would pop up and they'd be like, who is this? So-and-so's over there smoking weed.
Hey, welcome to the After Sunday podcast. We're so glad that you are joining in today. And today we have Jeread Stonequist with us, and we are talking about faith in the workplace. And so, Jeread, would you just start by sharing where you work at?
So I work at Faith Technologies. The parent company is FTI, and the branch I work in is called Accelerate.
Awesome. I love it. So what do you do at your job?
My title is materials lead. I run a crew of guys that we move heavy stuff with cranes, generators, fuel tanks, stuff up to our heaviest crane goes up to 200,000 pounds. So we lift big stuff, put it on trailers, and send it down the road.
That's such an important job. I mean, that just sounds so professional just with you saying that right there. So share with me, at your job, what is an unhinged story that has happened that you remember?
So just like 2 weeks ago, one of the guys that worked for that's on our team, he came up and he said, "Hey, so-and-so's over there smoking weed." And I was like, "What? Like, what do you mean?" It caught me off guard. It was like I'd never heard the term before. I'm like, "What are you talking about? What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, he has a weed vape and he's over there under the crane smoking it." And so I went and talked to him and then like called our safety people and said, "I kind of got a problem here," and took the guy to take a test. And I was like, "Are you gonna pass this?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." He's trying to pretend like nothing happened, and sure enough, it came back that he was under a crane where we had multi-million-dollar product. And
were you panicked?
I
Like, with
wasn't
your job,
panicked.
were you
I think it
panicked?
was kind of like I was kind of like in shock a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a big deal to be around. The stuff we move is worth a lot of money. And it's all for data centers. So clients for data centers are Google and Microsoft and Amazon and all this. So like everything's
Big
very
people.
professional and fit. And then this guy's out here with that little vape pen just doing his thing. And
You're like, that doesn't really work.
yeah, it's like that's kind of so much for safety first.
Yeah. So with that, we're talking about faith in the workplace today. Where was your faith implemented in that conversation? Because I'm sure that was not an easy conversation off the bat to have.
No, and I've had conversation with this guy before. He's very young. I say very young. He's in his mid-20s. He had a lot of stuff going at home he kept talking about, because I would have to talk to him about, I wrote him up over attendance, wrote him up over like just performance, that kind of stuff. And he's only been there less than 6 months. And so I would talk to him, like pull him aside and talk to him. And I've said, like, I tell people at work all the time, like, I'll pray for you. And I even have a list of people that I send out a message to in the mornings. A guy that I know, it's an old Vietnam vet from a veterans group I belong to, that sends it every morning. And I send it out to lots of other people. And there's people at work that have come up and kind of talked to me about, hey, I got this going on at home, me and my girlfriend, me and, whatever it may be. And I was like, I can send this to you, and maybe this will help. Something will hit. And so I was even talking to that guy about this stuff. So, but then when this happened, I think I was more like in work mode, because I was like, this is very serious. Someone could have got hurt bad. It could have cost me my job, So I wasn't holding a lot of faith talk this time around with the guy, but it was more like, you're done here, right?
Yeah, and I think, when you're talking about that, you're looking at the bigger picture of, this is still a person behind whatever this action is. And, I don't want to get too ahead. We're going to talk about this a little bit more. But would you share with me, you talk about how you used to be at this company a while back and you left. And would you just share your story of what that looked like and when your faith really started to come into your job?
So the first time I worked there, I was a welder. We made things for cryptocurrency, miners for cryptocurrency. So we take shipping containers, cut them up, re-weld stuff to fit our need. And I was going to church at the time when I was working there the first time, and I would listen to, I'd have my earbuds in when I'm welding and stuff, or on the speaker, I would have my phone Bluetooth to it, and sometimes faith music would pop up, and they'd be like, "Who is this?" I'm like, "Oh, that's me. That's some of mine." But then the song right after that maybe cuss words and this and that.
Yeah.
It was just regular secular music that was
Mhm.
the exact opposite.
Mhm.
And so it was kind of like I was trying to play both sides of it, still be just one of the guys or
Yeah.
whatever. And at the time I was also I was in a motorcycle club, that sort of thing,
Mhm.
and I was still drinking a lot back then, and I had a terrible attitude. My boss and I didn't see eye to eye, and I would like remind him weekly how much I disliked him and how I thought an empty pair of boots would do a better job. And like
Mhm.
I ended up walking out. I left on my own terms, but it was inevitable. You know what I'm saying?
Inevitable. Yeah.
Inevitable. One way or the other, I wasn't going to work there much longer.
Yeah.
We butted heads a lot, and I finally left. And um, so coming back, they called me up and asked me,
Mhm.
would you come back? You're not going to be working with the same people. It's not going to be the same position. But there's big things are happening,
Yeah.
and we want you to be a part of it. And so it took a while for me to come back, and I
Mhm.
finally did, and it
Yeah.
was it's worked out really well this time. And this,
Yeah.
after being gone for a year and a half, I'd made a lot of changes in my life.
Mhm.
Um, at home and family and church, stuff like that. So
Mhm.
this time it's a lot different. And
Yeah. So now that you're back at this job, and you said you've been there for 2.5 years since you came back,
yeah,
right? Yeah. So now that you have been back, as you're doing the daily things that you do in your position, where do you notice faith coming to your mind? Like you have a situation and then you think, it's like those silly things, but also really amazing things that the bracelets say, the what would Jesus do moments. What does that look like when you're at work? How is faith implemented in what you do every day?
I try to wear it like on my sleeve more now.
Yeah.
So I try to kind of live it fully at work. I listen to worship music on speaker, and it's just worship music. It's not mixed in
Mm-hmm.
with nonsense or whatever. Um, I talk about church. I talk about the men's groups I'm a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if people's stuff's going on, I talk to a lot of different people throughout the
Yeah.
day, and when you know these people and something's got going on, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of people. I'll be like, hey, you mind if I pray for you? And I
Yeah.
just kind of like I'm not shy about it. I don't try to hide it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
try to be someone inside of work versus outside. I
Yeah.
still probably say the wrong thing too often, and if things aren't going my way, I may say a cuss word or two, and I always feel bad, and I'm like, don't judge me on that. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was a weak moment or whatever, but um, I still just try to live it fully,
Yeah.
and I feel like the more open I am about it, the harder
Mm-hmm.
it is for me to go back to saying cuss words or getting
Yeah.
really angry or whatever, because I feel like I've told these guys about my faith and how God has changed my life, and now I have to live it. I have to
That's
prove it
good.
to them.
Yeah,
So
that's really good. Yeah, talking about how when you say, hey, I'm a follower of Jesus, that standard rises because now hey, people are really looking at you and how are you representing the name of Jesus and what you do? I think that's really profound. Just to know you have to speak that out loud. So, with the relationships you have with the people at work, do you talk to them only at work? I know you said you send a text to a whole group chat every single morning. What do those relationships look like? Are they bigger than a job, or do you really just talk to them at work?
most of the time, it's just work. I
Yeah.
try to keep that pretty separate because I am in like an authority position,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't like to. I don't want to treat one person different from another
Yeah.
because we're buddies outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
So like I get along with everybody as if
Mm-hmm.
if outside of work hang out or whatever,
Yeah.
but I just normally don't. The guys that do receive this message are people that have talked to me about hardships or something. Um, a guy was working for us that probably should have been fired pretty early on. And I talked to him a lot, and he had some addiction issues,
Mm-hmm.
alcoholism, and I really related to that because I've been
Yeah.
there. And so I talked to some HR people at work, and we ended up. He was able to go through a 30-day rehab.
Yeah.
He went to rehab. He sobered up. He's in a sober living house now. He's
That's
been there.
amazing.
Next 2 weeks from now is going to be his 1 year, and he
Wow.
probably shouldn't have made it through the first maybe 60 days because of
Mm-hmm.
attendance. And several times I had to talk to him like, you can't get on a forklift today because
Yeah.
I can see it. You're not
Yeah.
in the right mindset or whatever. And um, so it's stuff like that. The ones that I do talk to outside of work is usually because I've seen myself, my old me,
Mm-hmm.
in them.
Yeah.
And it's people that I don't want to say mentored because it
Yeah.
sounds like I'm doing something, but it's just really God using me in my past to talk to
That's
these
good.
people. And He's put me in a position at work that I can do that.
Yeah.
And so I do. I
Yeah.
try to.
I think that that's good. And, for the people watching, we're talking about faith in the workplace. And there's so many of you that are in the same position as Jeread, where the relationships you have at work, you're only talking to these people at work, and, you're not going and hanging out with them afterward. And Jeread, I want you to speak some wisdom into this. Since you're still showing your faith and praying for people, even though you don't have relationships with them outside of work, that communicates that you see your job as a bigger picture. You don't just see it as, oh, I'm going to work and this is it. So, would you share with me your mindset of how you view your job?
Uh, I see my job. I see a lot of things as just any position I'm in. Really, I find like God put me there for a reason.
Yeah.
Um, I have a checkered past, and I feel like the reason I've been through so many things before. I'm a combat veteran,
Mm-hmm.
diagnosed with PTSD, that kind of stuff. Like I've been through a lot of things that I feel like the reason I've been through all that, and the reason I thank God for that, is because I can reach out to people and I can touch people that not anybody can.
Mm.
I know when I wasn't a believer, if it wasn't for hearing testimonies of people who had a past like mine, people with arrest records, people with addiction, people with alcoholism, I would have never. I'd have been like that. That whole faith thing is for the perfect people in the world,
Yeah.
the people who have it all together.
Yeah.
And so I kind of use work and in anywhere else I am,
Mm-hmm.
where it comes up, where I see a place to do it, is like you can change your life too.
Yeah.
I was pretty far gone at one point, and now I'm a follower of Christ, and I
Yeah.
try to speak it when I can, and it worked for me. So I
Mm-hmm.
try to be that voice for other people and be that tool that God uses
Yeah.
to reach others.
Yeah, I think it's really amazing that, you're talking about just sharing your story. And that's how you share your faith, is the story of what God has done in your life. And, one thing I was going to ask you is, what do you do in specific to share your faith at work? But that just answered it. I mean, completely. I think sharing your story is such a powerful thing. And the fact that you're not ashamed of where you came from, but you rejoice that, hey, the power of God was strengthened and made perfect in my weaknesses. I think that that is such a testament, just to the impact that you make at your job. So I want to shift gears for just a moment and talk about, you have supervisors and people that you answer to. How does your faith impact how you view those in authority at your job?
I've always kind of had an issue with authority.
Mm.
I'm just the way it's my personality. It's something I've always had kind of a struggle with,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember being in a Bible study where it's in Romans or Hebrews, I can't remember, and it says something about listening to authority and
Mm-hmm.
them having authority, and it's and I remember writing it down and then writing like underneath it, like really, like like come on, and
That's amazing.
so it's something that I do struggle with because I don't like someone else being able to tell me what to do or
Yeah.
whatever, and so it is hard sometimes to um, when you get a task or something given to me.
Mm-hmm.
If it's told like you need to go do this, I still tend to kind of buck up a little bit and
Mm-hmm.
like, how about you ask me nicely and we can get it done, something like that. And then I got to like take a step back and be
Yeah.
like, what, you're the boss and you're right. I'll go.
Yeah.
We'll get it done. We'll take it taken care of. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so that is something I still struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very stubborn, and I still have the pride of like I'm my own man and I do my own thing, and sometimes I have to take a step back. Or luckily, I have a wonderful wife that will remind me sometimes that
Mm-hmm.
I need to stop trying to do everything myself.
Yeah, she's amazing. She is so amazing. I love that you even talk about just taking a step back and taking that moment to recognize, like, hey, authority is from the Lord. And I think that that speaks volumes too. You don't have to be perfect to share your faith in the workplace. I mean, nobody is ever going to be perfect. But it's about speaking the truth of who you are, what you're walking through, acknowledging when you can do better, and just truly being a holistic being and not trying to act holier than everybody else. It's just being down to earth, and I love that. Um, so for a minute, would you talk to me about things that you do during the workday to remind you that you are representing Christ?
Uh, the biggest thing is I try to listen to worship music when I am at my
Yeah.
desk, when I'm not on the production floor, and I have multiple screens, and on one of
Hmm.
them is my Spotify, so that it's a reminder. I go back in and I just hit play,
Yeah.
and I used to just listen to it on my earbuds with my phone, and that wasn't always working because other people would be talking. I'd get into their conversation, take the earbud out. But now I'm still in those conversations, and it's just kind of like a background music,
Yeah.
and it's still just a constant reminder.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a big thing. And then I'm not sponsored or anything, but these I don't know what the brand is. These little bracelets, I bought them for Jen and Healy and
Oh,
I, and
yeah.
you scan it with your phone and it pops up
Yes.
with different scripture, and so just wearing that constantly is a reminder too. Like if
Yeah.
I'm starting to get angry about something or something's not going our way, or I can see that we're probably gonna be working late because something someone else did, I can scan that real quick and it kind of puts me in check
Yeah.
again. And so um, just trying to have constant reminders because it's
Hmm.
very easy for me to slip up and try to go my own path again. And
Yeah.
so just anything, the music, the bracelets, or there are certain people. I just got a guy put on our team
Hmm.
directly. Reports directly to me, and then he kind of takes care of the team on the floor. And we haven't had that talk about faith yet, but I can just kind of tell he is a man of faith, the way he talks
Yeah.
about his family and that kind of stuff. And we haven't had a chance to have that conversation,
Hmm.
but I feel myself when I'm around him, and he's a lot younger guy. He's new to the job and that kind of stuff, but I can still see like I kind of control myself better when he's around. He's a very calm person
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. So I think we're gonna make a good team because I got someone with me that's even if he doesn't know it right now, he's
Hmm.
someone that when I'm like I feel like this is a man of faith and I don't want to be out here acting like a jerk.
Yeah.
And this guy's gonna be like, what church does he go to? And so
Yeah. So, how has having this perspective of your job, implementing your faith into it, knowing that it's more than just a job, how has that impacted your family?
um, I think anytime we talk about our faith or try to share Christ, it's a positive impact. Obviously, my wife is also uh, a corporate person. She's very high ranking in her job as well, and or way more than I am in mine. But um, so she deals with a lot of stress, a lot way more than me.
Hmm.
And so we have these conversations because we both, if I'm talking about things that happened at work and I kind of flew off the handle, or she's talking about it and we can talk about it together, like, was that the right thing to do? Was that the right thing to
Yeah.
say? And, so we get to like compare and contrast and
Yeah.
hold each other accountable,
Yeah.
so that's, it's always been a positive impact. And it's, when I do get angry or slip up, say a cuss word or whatever, I think about I spent the first 40 years of my life or 35 years of my life living my own way,
Hmm.
and Healy's 8. So we're really trying to push it on him, or not push it on him, but introduce him and
Hmm.
keep him in so he doesn't have to go 40 years before he's trying to make the changes. If he
Yeah.
just grows up seeking Christ in everything he does and
Yeah.
trying to be a good role model and a good image to other people, then he don't have to fight it so hard later. So
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're at your job, and you've talked about there are times where it's easy to slip up. Have you ever felt like there's this pressure of you can't talk about your faith or you can't be yourself? And if you've been in that position, how have you navigated that?
I'm part of the like anti-authority person that I am. It's never
Hmm.
really affected me. Like I'm going to
Yeah.
talk about it because it's me and who I am. I'm
Hmm.
not pushing it on anybody, but you're also not going to tell me what I can and can't talk about. So
Yeah.
if it got me fired, I'd be like, well, maybe I should have backed off a little bit. But at the same time, you're not going to tell me that I can't talk about my
Mm.
personal life in Christ and um, in the workplace. And
Yeah.
I don't think it would be an issue just because, not to sound conceited or arrogant or whatever, but they'd be in trouble without me.
Mhm.
So
So people are in the workplace and they're thinking about how can I share my faith? How can I talk about my faith? And I love that all throughout this podcast, you've talked about how it's really in the way that you live. I love that you have a group chat with a bunch of guys and you're sending them scriptures and encouragement. I think that that is such an amazing way to share your faith, just in a simple way every single morning. And then also by living authentically and knowing, hey, I'm not perfect, but I am going to show you that I love Jesus. I'm going to talk about, hey, it's okay to mess up and get back up on your feet and seek the face of Jesus. Like the way that you live at your job is such a good description of what it's like to be a Christian and to be constantly chasing after the Lord. And I would love for you to share just for a minute, what is your advice for people who are struggling with how do I actually share my faith in the workplace? Maybe they don't want to seem pushy in sharing their faith. So what would your advice in that be?
I think the biggest thing is definitely praying about it to yourself. If it's something you're thinking about, like, or struggling with or whatever, like, should I say this? Should I go forward with this? So praying for sure. And then you don't have to push it on anybody. If you just start telling people, like, I will pray for you, you can have those conversations, bring it up in conversation, say, oh, well, I was in church, or we're doing this at my church, or I'm in this Bible study or this group. It's way easier then, because then you're just planting the seed. Mm-hmm. And then in my case, people would come to me and mm-hmm. ask me about, well, what church do you go to? And like I was invited to other men's groups at other churches from people that we would have never known, especially the first time I worked there, mm-hmm. like, because our actions didn't match, our faith and what we were trying to be. Yeah. So then you start having those conversations, and it does a couple things. One, you're spreading the word. And two is you're finding someone that's going to hold you accountable, because mm-hmm. I just told this person I go to church, and then I'm trying to do all these things. So now, I talked about it a little bit ago. Now I'm trying to live that, because I don't want to put a bad image to them. Like, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, but I still do all these things. Yeah. So, I mean, religion has done that enough that I feel like we don't need to help it out where we're saying one thing and doing another.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. I just want to say to anybody listening right now, sharing your faith in your workplace is so important. We are called to be Christians that are going into communities, right? We're not just Christians here in a building on a Sunday morning. We should be spreading the gospel wherever we go. And Jeread's story is such an incredible picture of what it looks like to be chasing after Jesus, to be growing individually, but still to be sharing your faith. You don't have to be perfect to share your faith. Just share with people your story, where you've came from, how God is working in your life. Be honest about what you're walking through. And just like Jeread was talking about, when you mess up, it is okay to admit it, because when you are authentic and real, people will recognize that, and they will recognize how God is working in your life. So I just want to encourage you, share your faith in your workplace, be authentic, be real with other people, because it is making a difference. And thank you for tuning in to this week's After Sunday podcast. We are so glad for all of you who have been watching and listening. Feel free to let us know in the comments what conversations you would like to see happen in the future. But again, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe.